Outside Health and Fitness Podcast, Episode 94, Resistance Band Exercises for Total Body Fitness.
You hit every major muscle group in one exercise, in one movement. It's really a low-tech, high-performance training method that we try to utilize using our big honking bands.
Welcome to the Outside Health and Fitness Podcast. We're getting outside the box, outside our comfort zone, and outside and in shape. If you're bored with the same old fitness routine at the gym and you're ready to try something new, then this is the show for you. We're exploring new and fun ways to get fit on the trail, on the water, on the slopes, and outside.
Hi, this is Steve Stearns from OutsideHealthAndFitness.com, and I'm happy to welcome you to the Outside Health and Fitness Podcast. If you're new to the show, we like to stay fit and active by having fun outside. We like to ride, slide, run, walk, hike, bike, golf, golf, swim, and ski. If it's fun, outside, and it keeps us healthy, we love it. I bring over a decade of experience in the natural health industry to the microphone every week, and I talk to industry leaders about new and innovative ways to stay healthy, fit, and active. So if you're like us and you want to be healthy, active, and have fun outside, then you found the right place. Okay, so what would you do? Picture this. You're on a remote island with only a few thousand people, no treadmill, no Planet Fitness, and no spin class. You can't even find a DVD player for your Thai bow workout, but you need to stay fit. Sometimes it's situations like this where adversity sparks creativity and truly great things happen. Well, that's exactly what happened with the guest I have on the show today. In this episode of the Outside Health and Fitness Podcast, I'm honored to have Ari Zandman from Rubber Banditz on the show. Ari has an amazing background and has put together an innovative, effective, and dynamic system for getting a total body workout no matter where you are. On today's show, you'll learn how elastic resistance exercises work synergistically with your muscles in every phase to give you results like nothing else can. How Ari's unique rubber bands put you in a multiplanar training environment, allowing you to work multiple muscle groups at the same time, maximizing your exercise time. And how rubber bands are the ultimate portable, total body workout you can do literally anywhere.
OutsideHealthAndFitness.com.
So on the last episode of the podcast, I spoke with Jeremy Litchfield from Attain. Jeremy and I talked about his unique line of earth-friendly, high-performance wear for endurance athletes and some of the many cool environmental and community initiatives that he heads up, like the Maine Trash Runners. We had an awesome talk, and if you missed that episode, I'll have a link in today's show notes at OutsideHealthAndFitness.com/094. Just click on last week, and you can get all caught up. Have you got your free Tabata morning workout routine or my guide on fun running yet? If not, head on over to today's show notes and sign up for free. I'm always sending out new HIIT routines, tips on running, hiking, biking, you name it. So if you want to get on the inside of the Outside Health and Fitness Club, just head on over to OutsideHealthAndFitness.com/094. Get your free guides and sign up now. Now, let's get right to my conversation with Ari. All right. Well, Ari, I am so psyched to have you on Outside Health and Fitness, and I don't know a lot about you, but I've read a few things, and you have a really interesting story, so I can't wait to learn more about you.
Well, Steve, thanks a lot first and foremost for having me on here today. It's an honor and a privilege.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really happy to have you here, and it's going to be great. Can you share with the audience a little bit your story and where you came from and how you formed this really unique company and this work that you're doing?
Sure. I'm a former Division I basketball player from Anchorage, Alaska. Came from one random night, my mother and my father, I played basketball at a small Division I school called University of Northern Colorado up in Greeley, Colorado. And my junior year had knee surgery, medial meniscectomy, cut out all my medial meniscus, and then suffered some lower lumbar issues as well. So I was a hot mess for about 9 months, and slowly rehab back. That was really my first introduction to resistance training, using primarily TheraBands as a way for acute muscle strengthening and a number of different recovery exercises based on this knee injury that I had. So from there, I retired early from basketball due to being plagued from injuries, and finished up school. Decided to join the Peace Corps after I graduated. So came out to the small island nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Yeah.
And toted along any sort of portable fitness gadget I could get my hands on, since I knew I was on an island of 3,000. It was about 3.5 square miles, not a single gym.
Probably not a Planet Fitness there, right?
Not a Planet Fitness, not a 24-hour, not an Equinox, nothing. It was it was a lot of coconuts and and fish. I realized that if I wanted to stay in shape, that I had to figure it out on my own. So, I slowly started tinkering around with whatever sort of available fitness resources I could get my hands on. And slowly but surely, I put together this ad hoc fitness regimen for myself that utilized resistance training bands. And so from Peace Corps experience, I actually transitioned over and spent several years in Latin America, predominantly in Guatemala, working on development initiatives out there as well. And so it was this kind of long spectrum of different fitness related, workouts that I was doing. Initially trying to pick up the bands and figure out, okay, if I was in the gym right now and I wanted to simulate a bench press, how do I do bench press? Wrap it around, I'm going to do this, a press that guy, okay, bench press, great. Now if I want to do a pull down, a curl, so I basically, I figured out a way to simulate each gym exercise that I had done, previously, whatever, using bands. Just so happened that I got a hold of these circular bands that, I really had no clue what to work with. I'd seen them in a chiropractor office. One of my strength and conditioning coach in school had recommended I bring it along because he thought they were awesome at the time. And so just started tinkering with them over about this 3-year period. After building out this mobile gym concept that, ultimately duplicated resistance, rather weight training exercises, started to really experiment out and get into yoga and Pilates, and watch a ton of videos and dove into this kind of self exploration. I had a lot of time and chunked out almost 2 hours a day for fitness training, and just trying to get into any sort of full body movement that I could come up with. So I studied personal training courses, and again watched a lot of videos, and after about this 3-year period or so, I had come up with a comprehensive workout regimen that combined strength training, core stabilization, balance, and flexibility. So nice. I'm a firm believer in cross training, really training your body to operate as a unit instead of more unit dimensional functionality, doing something like a simple curl. Not to say that anything is wrong with a curl, love curls, but ultimately we're trying to wrap as many different muscle groups and engage as many different body parts in each exercise as possible by using bands.
That's great. This is kind of like the necessity is the mother of invention sort of thing, where you found yourself in this environment where there was no gym equipment and you still had this desire to work out. So you had to really get creative and find a way to utilize your environment and these bands in order to get the full workout that you were looking for.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really the genesis of the idea. And so after repatriating back to the States, it was a concept that had started resonating with a lot of the backpackers while I was out in Guatemala that I was I'd kind of that I was exposed to, I'd bounce it off of, and talk to them. A lot of Europeans and Australians who were traveling for a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year at a time were commonly lamenting about the fact how they just didn't have access to a gym anywhere. We're atrophying muscle left and right, and just we're looking for ways to aside from just running, especially a lot of females who I talked to who didn't either feel oftentimes safe running in the evening, and wanted an additional method to strength train. And so I thought, this is great. This is perfect for the international backpacker scene. This is back. I had long dreadlocks at the time, and so that was my initial approach. So we shot. While we were out in Guatemala, we shot a 1.5 hour full-length DVD using a camcorder. We shot it. Every single exercise was filmed in a different location in Guatemala. So the idea was to kind of combine, an exercise video with a documentary.
Yeah.
So we filmed it in everywhere from an office to the jungle to prison to a guard, the middle of parks. It was really cool, a lot of fun, and created a 60-page manual as well to teach the basic fundamentals of Rubber Banditz resistance training. Came back to the States and launched Rubber Banditz in late 2009.
Wow, that's cool. So now Rubber Banditz, that's your site and that's your business, and that really not only revolves around the exercises themselves, but the actual rubber bands. You actually make the resistance bands, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We distribute our own proprietary line of their circular resistance training bands, and they range in size. They're all 40 inches long is a technical name for the lay flat length. So it looks like, if you can imagine an office rubber band only on steroids.
Yeah.
So they're 40 inches long. We also have some longer bands. We have a 6 foot and a 10 foot long band as well that we use for power, explosive, agility, plyometric type drills.
Yeah. But
the lion's share of the bands that we sell are 40 inches in length and then range in width and thickness based on the resistance level that you're aiming for. So that's really the crux of what we do, and we have expanded over the past 5 years and have about 60 different products now as well. But really, if distilling down what our core competency is, it is in functional fitness training using these big honking circular bands.
So now you carry the bands, and people would buy. Do people generally get like a variety of them, or is one band sufficient to get people going in most of the things that they want to do? Do you really need to have some different bands for different resistances?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we sell bands to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. For example, a lot of our bands have become popularized for pull-ups, and where people will wrap a band around a pull-up bar, slide it through itself, and so you have a loop, hanging down at the bottom that you would then insert your foot into, and it gives you assistance going up and down. So it's effectively an assisted pull-up.
Hey, it's Steve. What an amazing background Ari has. He's sharing some really great stuff, and there's a lot more to come. Sorry for the interruption, but I just wanted to jump in here really quick. If you're listening on an Apple device using the podcast app, I want to make sure that you know that you can click on the album art and see the full show notes right on your phone. It's a really great way to follow along and link to any of the resources that we talk about while you're listening to the interview. And while we're talking about the podcast app, please consider leaving a review in iTunes or clicking the thumbs up button on Stitcher. It really helps a lot. All right, enough of that. Back to the interview with Ari.
Yep. So that if people are buying specifically for pull-ups, then I think there are one, maybe two bands would be an ideal solution for them. It's not, we typically recommend two bands, not because we want to sell more, but because it gives them three different levels of resistance. They can use one. They can do drop sets and pyramid sets using the band. So if they get, you do basically, if you can do two pull-ups by yourself, and you do two pull-ups by yourself, and then you add one band and do as many as you can until you burn out, and then you add the other band, you eke out a couple more. So you really get several different levels. That for single use type exercises. And there's a few different ones that we see commonly. Then I think one or two bands is probably sufficient. However, if somebody's looking for really the full platform, the full mobile fitness package that they can take with them, our 1 pound mobile gym kit that uses the standard package is pretty all encompassing. We have a basic, standard, and deluxe. The standard one's the middle one. It has three different size bands. The deluxe one has one larger size band that is probably not necessary for everyday use. It's a little bit on the heavier side, good for pull-ups, whatnot. But the standard package has three different size bands, comes with two hand grips, two carabiners that clip on the hand grips, and then a manual DVD, a door strap so that you slide into a door and you can essentially leverage a door for a gym, and then the travel bag. It's $60 is our retail cost on that. So that's probably what we see. We see most folks coming and trying out the standard kits, and that's personally, like, if my people come and ask me, family, friends, everybody, what should I get? That is almost 90% of the time what I'll go with.
That's awesome. So you also, not only you have the bands, you also teach people how to use them and how to get the most out of the bands that they're buying.
Yes, that's correct. So do a fair amount of personal training, individual and group training, but also in the process now of creating a more robust workout library that people can access and stream online. We're editing down our a new video series that should really be helpful, I think, to a lot of folks that will demonstrate in real time some of the different functional activities that that we use the bands for. And one of the cool things that forgot to mention about the circular bands, which is probably worth highlighting, is that what kind of differentiates them from tube bands. So you find in the marketplace, there's two kinds of different bands that are really widespread. One of them are the tubes that have the handles attached to the end.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the TheraBand style band, which is the one that if you go to the physical therapy office, they have rolled up and they cut you off a little strip and give you your paper printouts. So those are, that when people think of resistance bands, those are typically what folks think of. And they're both excellent for what they do. The difference really in what we do with the bands is that while on one side of the equation we do have hand grips that you can clip on, and you can duplicate anything you do with the tube bands because you can attach the handles on each end. Or if you were to detach the handles and just grasp the band as is, there are a lot of different really cool ways that you can create what we call a multiplanar training environment, meaning that it offers resistance in both vertical and horizontal planes. It's a little bit easier to demonstrate than to explain. I mean, if you jump over a website, we have some cool examples there. But I give you kind of a visual where, like, if you're imagine, it's a big rubber band, like I said, big circular band. You're standing on the bottom of it, and you were to press the top of it up, you will effectively engage your deltoid muscles, your shoulders.
Right. And
then if you were to then pull it down, you're still targeting your shoulders, but you're also now engaging your lat muscles because it's giving you a horizontal resistance across that plane of motion. So if you were to then twist, for example, at the core, well, then you're now engaging your core muscles as well. So you're, by virtue of this circular shape, you have the ability to engage your upper body core muscles, and, you can even go as far as to add a squat as well. And so you hit every major muscle group in one exercise, in one movement. It's really a low-tech, high-performance training method that we try to utilize using our big honking bands.
For somebody that is looking to get in a really good workout and be very efficient with their time, that would be outstanding.
Yeah. That's really one of our main value propositions, is that we got this cute little 1 pound kit that is TSA safe. So you find a lot of folks who are taking it with them on the road, and it's really space efficient. So I mean, you can fit it in a fanny pack, basically. Wow. You can deploy it literally anywhere and have an entire gym workout within basically an arm's radius. So you could literally get a full body workout in your closet, which is kind of cool. So we do, we see a lot of people, whether they're busy bodies and working 15 hours a day and, can't quite find the energy or the time to get to the gym at the end, or have kids at home, or they're, in more remote locations where, gyms maybe not be accessible, or maybe they just, don't want to be outside and work out, and get a great workout, a great strength training workout to triangulate their cardio or whatnot. So we see folks, from all over the board. And one of the other really cool things that I guess I'd be remiss not to mention is how resistance training is somewhat different than using traditional weights. They're both, technically they're both resistance training, but you have weight training and elastic resistance training, as I like to call it. So with one, if you're using weights now, for example, let's just imagine that you're doing a basic curl with you have a dumbbell. Say you're curling 50 pounds with 50 pounds of weight. So throughout your entire range of motion, from starting point up until your arm is fully bent, you are essentially receiving 50 pounds of resistance, right? Except at the very top, when your arm is straight, there's a little bit of a sticking point where you're not quite feeling the whole 50 pounds, but throughout 90% of your range of motion, you have 50 pounds of resistance. Now, the difference here, if you can imagine you're doing that with bands, and this is something that's a universal principle to all elastic resistance training, is that, so if you start at the very bottom of your repetition when your arm is fully extended downward, as you contract your muscles give off more force, right? So you have more force when your arm is bent at 90 degrees throughout your concentric contraction than you do at the very bottom when you're at your starting point and your arm is perfectly straight. It's this very similar concept with the bands in the sense that as you stretch the band, it gives you incrementally higher amounts of resistance. So as you're stretching it, it increases the amount of tension that it gives you, which is really creates a symbiotic relationship with the way your muscles work. As they contract and give off more force, the bands simultaneously stretch longer and challenge your muscles with a higher amount of tension. So there's a natural relationship there as well, so that your time under tension is the technical name for it, is the amount of load bearing time that your muscles are physically challenged by resistance is the same in either case. The only difference is that the elastic resistance more acutely accompanies your muscles as they increase force throughout their contractions.
And the opposite is true too.
Exactly.
You're getting it both in the contraction and then also when you're slowly lowering it back down again. That's cool. Your
concentric and isometric contraction, exactly.
I wanted to ask you also, I was very intrigued by this description of you as a mixed medium exercise enthusiast. And can you explain that and talk a little bit about some of the things that you do there?
Sure. Well, I'm a huge advocate of keeping it fresh and really pursuing multiple different modalities of fitness. I think to really, look and feel great. Obviously, there's no silver bullet, and regardless however long you spend in the weight room and however jacked you get, that's awesome. But you really gotta figure out how to keep your body limber and keep your heart pumping blood as fast as you can. So there's several different dynamics there, right? So what I try to do, and this is kind of divorcing, what I do with the bands is really tied together a complete fitness training schedule that entails in part strength training, yoga, very core centric type exercises, both with and without the bands, really targeting core stabilization type exercises, and doing a lot of balance work as well. So it's kind of, I like to kind of think of it as a 4-pillared workout regimen, essentially where each one, I'll try to use bands as much as possible across all 4 planes. And there's a lot of, I noticed there's a lot of things actually on your side as well that you're doing with high intensity interval training, which I feel like is also extremely relevant. It's awesome when you can really mix some of those mediums together, and you can get a high intensity strength training workout while still getting cardio at the same time. So you really can try to elevate your metabolic rate for a prolonged period of time, and then of course rounding out once your body is warmed up. I like to really try to finish out with a deep dynamic stretch to close out any workout.
I took a look at one of your videos. I can't remember where I saw it, but it was pretty cool. It was very funny. I really enjoyed it, but it also looked like you get pretty creative with these bands and how you're working out. Even that description of the assisted pull-up was pretty novel idea. What are some of the other creative ideas that you have come up with over the years for using these bands?
Well, they make incredible water balloon launchers.
Great.
You could probably launch a potato across the Pacific if you really want. I will say it's been interesting to see how the bands have been able to address needs of pretty diverse populations.
Yeah.
So we've, for example, we've done a lot of work with Special Olympics, Disabled Sports USA chapters, and adapted workouts for special needs populations, whether they're in wheelchairs or, we figure out ways that we can, attach the bands or modify the resistance levels using a number of different grip options. so that any athlete with disabilities essentially has a medium to get a strength training workout. So from that all the way up until, we've done a lot of work with big, robust Marines and professional athletes. One of my former teammates, Vincent Jackson, has been our kind of our cover boy. We're now adapting it. We're adapting several different speed and strength training workouts to baseball as well. So there's I guess in regards to your question, some of the unique functionalities of the bands we've done, we've made them very sport specific. If you're a field goal kicker, you're going to be doing a lot of kicking. If you're a boxer, you're doing a lot of jabs and uppercuts. And so we'll sit back and watch all of these natural body movements and figure out ways that we can conveniently add resistance to them. By adding a little bit of resistance to natural movements, it adds just enough challenge to where when you take it off, you'll notice a much faster acceleration, in those immediate reps.
You're kind of saying that because you're doing that movement against resistance. When you remove the resistance, you notice the difference.
Exactly. Another great example is if we're working on improving one's vertical leap. If you jump up and down, you measure your vertical without using any resistance, and then we'll apply the bands across an athlete's shoulders and tether the bottom of the bands to a low-lying anchor point, and have them jump in rapid succession a number of times. And as soon as we take the bands off them, we'll measure their vertical again, and oftentimes see a fairly dramatic improvement in their vertical jump.
I'm over on your site right now, and I see that you have all kinds of different functional fitness, powerlifting, speed training, rehab. This site here, not only I can get the bands here, but you've got a lot of information here too that people can learn more about the resistance training and particularly doing it with the bands, right?
Yeah. We really try to be a sounding board for all resistance training, elastic resistance training questions, and offer as much content to our visitors as we can to really help them, along their trajectory and address their specific goals. So we do a tremendous amount of work with athletes. We do a lot of work with CrossFitters, yeah, and a lot of folks who are really interested in pursuing full body functional training fitness practices.
That's very cool. And I'll have a link to this in the show notes so that folks can link right over there and check out what you've got going on. I see you've got a blog as well, so you've got all kinds of information over here. This is very cool.
Yeah. Well, Thank you very much.
Yeah, great looking site. Ari, is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to share before we sign off?
Well, my favorite color is clear.
I thought you were going to say your favorite color was leather or something. Or rubber, maybe.
Favorite color is rubber. My favorite smell is rubber.
Yeah.
And I made 1.5 pounds of hummus last night. So we're slowly experimenting with hummus. That's going to be the next big Rubber Banditz hit.
I see. You're going to try to make some rubber bands out of hummus, or?
Yeah, well, we'll see. We're still it's still in the laboratory. TBD.
That's right. Awesome. Well, Ari, thanks so much for coming on. It was great talking with you, and I think these things are just amazing. I mean, I never would have suspected how versatile a rubber band could be. I know it's not a rubber band, but it looks like a big rubber band, like you said, on steroids.
Hopefully, it's been an enlightening experience for all of us here. I appreciate you taking the time and having me on your show here, and would love to help out you or your listeners any way I can.
That's
Feel free
awesome.
to get in touch with me. Okay,
we'll do, and I'll make sure that I've got all your contact information in the show notes too. Thanks again, Ari.
You betcha. Thank you. All the best.
So today we learned that it's possible to get an amazing workout anywhere, anytime. In fact, using elastic resistance exercises, you can mimic movements to train for specific sports, work out multiple muscle groups at the same time, and take your workout outside, on the road, or wherever you want. I ordered my Rubber Banditz this weekend, and I'm really looking forward to getting them so I can start adding some creativity to my workouts. If you want to check out Rubber Banditz or order some, please use my affiliate link at outsidehealthandfitness.com/bands. It's a great way to support the show. I get commission for referring you, and you get awesome workout bands at no additional cost to you. Thanks to Ari for taking the time to come on the show and share his story and information with us. If you want to find out more about Ari and everything he's doing at Rubber Banditz, I'll have links in today's show notes. If you're getting value from the show and you'd like to help me bring you more amazing guests like Ari, you can by visiting today's show notes at outsidehealthandfitness.com/094 and clicking on support. Thanks again for listening to the show, and I look forward to talking with you again next week.